So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
This is really cool what we're about to do, because you brought 3 scenes from your film, but what's fascinating about what we're about to see is that they're really in varying stages of completion from shot to shot. So can you explain kind of what you've decided to do?
Yeah, so basically what we're showing you is absolutely horrifying to me, because what we're showing you is totally unfinished footage. So you're going to see, what's great is we've only done this once before. We did it at Comic-Con New York, where we took a scene, but now we have 3 whole sequences. And you'll be seeing stuff where you'll be seeing some ape shots, so it'll look like the movie for a second, and then you'll see some animation, and then all of a sudden you'll see that ape turn into Andy Serkis. And so you're actually going to see really how we do this, because we go out and we shoot everything on the location with the actors, and they are driving those performances, and what you're going to see now is a representation of those scenes that are unfinished, so forgive it, but it's going to be interesting for you, because you're going to get to see the way we're looking at it. I mean, before it becomes Planet of the Apes, it's kind of Planet of the S&M guys in these really tight, sort of weird Lycra outfits, and so you're going to get a glimpse of that. And so that's what we're going to do, and actually in the first clip that we're going to do, you know, the movie is War for the Planet of the Apes, and it takes place 2 years after Dawn. And, you know, obviously at the end of Dawn, the last thing that Caesar ever wanted was a war, but the war was started by Koba. And so we're thrust into, it's 2 years into the fighting, and the apes have actually retreated from the woods, because what is left of the United States Army has come down to eradicate the apes, because Koba attacked the human colony, and no explaining is ever going to make the humans think that the apes can be trusted. So they've come down hard, and Caesar has been trying to find some way to survive, and he is, at this point in the story, as the movie begins, which is what you're going to see in the first clip, he has become kind of a legend, because somehow, even though they're completely overmatched in terms of the arms that the humans have, because they are what's left of the United States Army, the apes have managed to survive. They've scavenged weapons, and they've retreated to the woods, because they know that area like the back of their hands, and they can fight in the trees. They've created these ape trenches, which you're about to see, and there's a legend that Caesar has been sort of leading this fight from somewhere deep hidden in the woods, and they've been looking for him for 2 years, and some of them have even started to think he doesn't exist, but Woody Harrelson, who's the colonel, he's a hardened special ops guy who is, it's almost like a Kurtzian Apocalypse Now type character with great gravitas and intensity. He knows that Caesar's out there, and that's what they're looking for. So that's what this first sequence is, which we'll look at, and before we do that, just so you see exactly what I'm talking about, we've put together a little side-by-side imagery. So you'll see on one side of the screen, you're going to see the actor, you'll see Andy Serkis, and he'll be performing, and then you'll see the shot as it will look in the final film. And we've done that essentially for roughly the cast of the film that you'll be seeing. And so we'll begin with that, and then we'll go right into this opening sequence, which will show you the opening sort of battle before Caesar makes his arrival. And then he'll make his arrival, and you'll see Andy Serkis.
Perfectly set up, and then we'll keep chatting after you watch this first scene. So enjoy.
No, that's all just out of it. Everything you're seeing is literally out of the editing room, which we're doing over there, so nothing is, that's just what it looks like as we're cutting the movie. Yeah.
So it'll be 3 years between the release of Dawn and the release of War. How significant are the technological advances even in the last 3 years?
Well, the technological advances that you'll be seeing in the film have to do with twofold. I mean, one is the capture itself. When I came on to Dawn, what I wanted to do, Rise was shot to a very large degree in controlled locations, on the stage, and I noticed that the places where they were outside, that the places where they were in natural light, in real environments, the ape models themselves looked more real, because the lighting is based on real lighting, and you take that photoreal ape and you put it in an environment that starts looking real. And I was like, well, since my desire was to see the civilization that the apes had created, I wanted us actually to go and shoot that in the woods, to shoot it in the rainforest. And that had never been done, to take it, Weta had to take the equipment and make it much more robust. So on this one, I was like, I knew we could do it, and because we did it on Dawn, I was like, now I want to go into the mountains, I want to go shoot in the snow. And so the equipment has gotten stronger and stronger, and we are able to capture in almost any environment. And that's one way in which it's better. The other way is that Weta has completely rebuilt the pipeline so that the apes the detail in the apes and the ability to express the emotions of the actors as seen on the apes' faces, as played by the actors, that level of realism is startling. I mean, you're only getting a glimpse of it here, that one gorilla, like the shots of the apes that we have so far in the movie, which we haven't even been able to share with you so far, that are close to final, they are leagues above what they have been in any of the films. It seems to happen every time that Weta gets it. They're just the best. And so the moment you go on to like the next phase, you're like saying, oh, it'll be a little better, and you get the first shot and you're going, that's a lot better. So it's the work itself is just remarkable.
So describe a little bit about this journey that Caesar and his cohorts are on that leads them to this abandoned house that we're about to see in the second scene.
Sure. I mean, as you can see, my goal was for us to take this and to expand the canvas. The movie is much bigger, and obviously it's a war movie. And the thing about any great war movie is you have, of course, the spectacle and the battles, and we have plenty of that. But the drama, one of the great things about the ape movies is that you relate to these characters who are apes. You're connecting to them emotionally, and I think it's one of the things that both of that Rise and Dawn did, and we are doing even further here. And this story, while it is ostensibly a giant war film, it's also a war within Caesar's heart, because as the story begins, Caesar is feeling guilty because somehow he wasn't able to see that he didn't understand the darkness that was inside Koba, who attacked the humans in the last film, because he could never imagine living alongside them, because he was treated essentially as a, almost like a concentration camp victim. He was experimented on. He was an experimental chimp, and so Caesar just missed that, and so an attack was led on the humans. And Caesar thinks, gosh, if I only could have understood what was going on inside of him. And one of the things that Maurice, the orangutan, says to him is, well, nobody can know the darkness that was inside of him. You couldn't have known that. And the journey of this film is actually to take what happens at this point. They're trying to survive in the woods. The humans come on so viciously, and Caesar's trying to find any way for peace. And Woody, in particular, leads them in such, it's all about survival. He's leading them in such a ruthless way that the apes take on such tremendous losses that it actually starts to turn Caesar, for the first time ever, against humans in a profound way. And the war is not just a war between apes and humans, but it's also a war within Caesar's heart for his soul. And so what ends up happening is he decides in this kind of Apocalypse Now way that he is going to get Woody Harrelson. And he takes this journey in Apocalypse Now. They go up the river. In our case, they move out of the Muir Woods and across California and up into the snowy Sierras. And so that's what takes us into this giant sort of snowy world. And as he goes, his posse, Maurice the orangutan, Rocket the chimp, his loyal chimp, and also the gorilla, Luca, who's his protective servant, they don't want him to go because they feel like this is a suicide mission for him to do this, and they want to make sure he comes back and can rejoin the apes. And so they won't let him go by himself. So this very unlikely posse of apes sets up the river toward the Sierras to get the colonel. And in the scene you're about to see, Caesar, who is now, for the first time, really turned in a dark way, is struggling, is there by his side. They think they've found the place where the human soldiers are supposed to be. When they arrive, they don't find any soldiers. This is what they find instead. So this will give you an idea.
Who she is and why she doesn't talk.
Well, she's a critical character in the movie. And what happens is, as the story begins, it's a revenge story. Caesar's going to get revenge, and he's going to get the colonel. He's going to make the humans topple by cutting off the head, by getting Woody. But as he starts making that journey up the river, he starts finding these other clues that start to fill in a larger picture about the humans. And also not just about the humans, but about the apes, which you'll find out about in the next clip as well. So it's like there's a big unfolding mystery that's unraveled. So that it's this, the movie starts as a war movie, it becomes kind of like a Western, and then it starts to unfold in this kind of grand mystery, and then it becomes a real battle of wills between Caesar and the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson. And the stuff, which we don't have anything of because it would be too spoilery, so we couldn't show it today, but the stuff with Woody is amazing, and the stuff that he did with Andy Serkis is incredible.
Can you explain to us why you sometimes see the actor's name and the ape character name written on the actor's body?
Yeah, I mean, what's going on is essentially we have, I set up a shot and we do a scene, and the actors play that scene. And so, a lot of people think, Woody was like, am I going to be acting to a tennis ball? And I was like, no, you're going to be acting with Woody, with Andy. It's incredible. And what ends up happening is we get all of these, not only is there my camera, but Weta has a whole team of technicians who come, and they have mocap cameras. And what they're doing is they're getting, in addition to the shots I get, they're getting shots of the actors, every part of them, their faces, their bodies, so that that information can be tracked as data to be used in the animation. And so what you're seeing, the reason that you see that, it'll say Karen, who plays Maurice, and it says Maurice over here, is because they've got so many camera operators that Dan from Weta will say, oh, I want a tighter shot on Karen, on Maurice, and so it's to identify them to about 30 other camera operators who are hidden all over our set for every single shot.
So what do you want everyone to know about the last clip that we're about to watch?
Well, so the other thing that we really wanted to do, the movie is larger, it's more emotional, it's really thrilling in so many ways, and the technology is greater and bigger, but there's also the world itself gets larger, and one of the things that happens is that we're able to explore new tones. I mean, there really hasn't been, the Cobra stuff in the last movie was, you could say it was funny, but it was super dark. And there's plenty of dark, scary, exciting stuff that you expect from Apes in the story, but there's also a tremendous heart in this version of the movie, and they meet some new characters, and it was a way to bring in not only a whole idea of a larger world of apes and how that implies the rest of the world, but also new tones and a character who you're about to see who we think is both heartbreaking on a level, but also extremely funny. And he's the source of a lot of comedy in the film. So the movie has heightened everything, and it's got a tremendous amount of humor that we haven't really had in either of the films yet. So that's really exciting. And that character is played by Steve Zahn. We can talk about it after you see it. But essentially what happens in this clip is that after the scene you saw, that unlikely posse has located the army, and they follow them up to the Sierras, but they get caught in a whiteout. So it's a very, the idea is that this girl is like a flicker of humanity left there. As Caesar's getting harder and more badass, there's still a tug to his humanity. And actually this new character represents a little bit of that as well. And what happens is they've lost the troop of soldiers who are making their way towards somewhere on a border. So they know they're going somewhere on the border because of the information that they found out. The apes have climbed up this tower high in the mountains, and they're looking, and as that happens, there is like a scavenger, some human-looking, could be a soldier, who starts rummaging through their horses while the girl, unbeknownst, is sitting to the side, and as that happens, they give chase, and this is the character they meet.
All right, so we'll watch it and then we'll talk about it. So, Steve Zahn is such a great physical comedian, as we've seen in so many movies, but it's not like he's Andy Serkis and has done motion capture before. How did you know that he would be so good at this?
I'd always loved him. I always thought he was just such a funny actor and a great actor. And we were looking for someone to bring voice to this character. Actually, Mark Bombeck and I were writing the script. We found a photo of an ape on the internet that looked exactly like that ape, and we wrote to that ape. And it was like, so, our voices were the ape for a long time, which was a lot less funny. And so we were like, gosh, who are we going to find? And Deb Zane, who's our casting person, she said, we're just going to get a bunch of people to read with you. And he actually read with me over Skype. And what's so interesting is he was really funny. But the great thing about that character is he brings so much emotion to the story. He's really funny throughout the whole movie. And that becomes like this crazy, unlikely posse that goes up there. Here they are going to do this like really terrifying mission, and it's like 4 apes and then a new chimp who is this crazy zoo chimp who's grown up on his own as a hermit, and then this girl, and you're like, how are these people going to do this? How are these apes going to do this? And so it's really exciting. But the thing that really got me was that over Skype, there's a very emotional scene where you find out about his backstory, where he and Andy Serkis, Caesar, are talking. And it's a scene that we thought was really lovely, and he started doing the scene, and I started crying over Skype. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. So, and then we did it, and what happens is, everybody who's going to play an ape spends a time with Terry Notary, who plays Rocket. He is a former Cirque du Soleil performer, and he trains everybody to move like an ape, and we have like an ape camp, and we do ape improvs, and we do all this crazy stuff. So Steve spent a lot of time just learning how to walk and move like an ape, and then as an actor, he was just, we were just finding the emotion and how to express that with a little bit of apiness, the little oh, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really, for actors, it's incredibly exciting, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that these performances are so based on the performances of the actors. They think, oh, that's great, so you kind of do this animated thing. And it's like, no, actually, it's called performance capture because what we're capturing are these actors' performances. So you see very much of Steve coming through in that character.
So you've brought one kind of bonus piece of video. Do you want to tell everybody what it is and set it up, and then we'll watch it?
Our trailer.
Yes.
Yes. So the last thing we have to share with you is our trailer, which was just released. And it gives you a little glimpse of Woody. Again, I wish we could have shown you more of that kind of stuff today because he's so great in the movie. But basically, this is our first teaser trailer, and we're really excited about it. It's just been released, and we'd love you to see it. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Reeves, thank you so much.